with us today, and let's get started. Our discussion is going to be herbs primarily, but we're going to talk some medicinal, which is going to be a little more than herbs in that area. Then we'll be talking culinary and bug repellent as well. I like to do a little bit of history, so we'll just start with a little bit of history. Starting with herbs and spices and plants in general have been a part of our medicinal, culinary, etc. for archaeologically dating back 60,000 years in use. Not at the herb end, sorry, at the spice and the plant end. Medicinally used for over 60,000 years, dated 60,000 years ago. That's a long time. For herbs, 5,000, archaeological 5,000 years, dated back 5,000 years. That's still a long time, and that's for using herbs medicinally. Herbs used to be what was our medicine long before pharmaceuticals, and a lot of people just don't connect that to and don't realize, oh yeah, this is what we used before all these pharmaceuticals came about. The ancient theory of herbalism, which was by the scholars and the practitioners, their belief, they were also known as doctrine of signature, and their belief was every plant's texture, shape, scent, color, the environment it grows in would resemble the look of the disease that's being healed or treated, or the body part of. Kind of a hit and miss on that one. But you gotta start somewhere, right? There's I'm sure a lot of bad that came with some of the good back in those days. Again, this is ancient times. Medicinal herbs can be very dangerous. You don't want to just go, oh, I have inflammation, I'm going to use that. Or, oh, I have high blood pressure, I'm going to use that. It's so important that you find a professional before you introduce any medicinal herbs of any kind into your system. You could, if you have some existing medical issues, they might interact poorly with that. If you have certain medications, pharmaceutical medications you're taking, and you want to introduce some herbs to that, that can interact poorly. So always, always, with anything medical, anything you're introducing new to your body, seek a professional and find out if it's going to work with your existing illnesses or your prescriptions that you are taking. Very important. And in that, we're going to start talking about medical herbs, what can be used for digestion. A lot of times you're like, oh, something's just not happening right there. And you want to move your digestion in the right direction. You can use ginger, basil, rosemary. Here's some basil. There's all kinds of different types of basil. And rosemary's a really good one. And some of these you're going to hear are used in a lot of different ways. They're very, very versatile. Lemon balm is another one for digestion. I ran out of lemon balm a few days ago, but it's a little leafy thing. It's a really nice one. Peppermint. We've got some mints. I don't know if I grabbed a peppermint, but peppermint mints are another great thing. You can also do in other cultures, they use ground clove and cardamom wrapped in betel nut leaves, and you chew on that after you've eaten your meal, and it produces a lot of saliva, and that is what's going to help in your digestion as well.
A lot of these herbs too, you can think of fennel as well as helps with like gas and bloating, stuff like that. The lemon balm, like she had talked about, it really helps with soothing the stomach. And the peppermint also, as well as calming and soothing as well. But you can think of them as prebiotics, right? They're going to stimulate the digestive system so that you can help digest whatever food you're eating. That's how these herbs kind of interact with the digestive system. Relaxing and anxiety. You can use chamomile, lavender,
lemon balm, and valerian. Lavender is right here, of course, quite a lot of different varieties. And again, I'm out of the lemon balm, but it's still good to know. And chamomile. You've got the chamomile.
I do. She's
Different
way out
varieties
this
of
moment.
chamomile.
We have German and Roman, I think, at the moment.
Now, and there's other things that work. We can't go into all of them, or we'll be here for hours. So I'm just kind of giving you a few of the things that will work well. Sleep is very much the same as anxiety and relaxing. It's the lavender, as well as the chamomile, lemon balm, and cannabis is very good in helping with sleeping. Skin irritations, echinacea. Echinacea is very good for skin irritations, as well as aloe vera. And calendula. You've got the calendula.
Yeah, the calendula's over here.
Right over here.
It's used a lot in topicals, salves, ointments, stuff like that.
And you just use it as a topical, and you just put it in the areas. I suffer from eczema, and it really helps cool down the eczema. Yeah. Muscle and joint, cayenne pepper. Cayenne pepper. I have one somewhere. Cayenne pepper, you're thinking pepper. It's a vegetable, not an herb. Any of the vegetables that are dried to be used as a herb are herbs. So they're thought the cayenne is thought to be the queen of herbs. It is very high in antioxidants and has a lot of nutritional values to it. And to go along with that, you could also use ginger, chamomile, peppermint, and rosemary. You've seen a lot of repeat herbs that we're talking about in all these different.
So those herbs in those categories, there are a lot of heat to those herbs. So what they're going to do is they're going to stimulate the circulatory system, right? They're going to bring more blood flow to those certain areas.
Cough and colds. We all have the trouble with their respiratory system at times. You can't help it. Garlic. Don't have garlic this time of year, but garlic is so good for so many things, and I like to eat it. Thyme. Lots of varieties of thyme. Those are really good for your respiratory. Spearmint and horseradish. Spearmint with I'm just going to randomly hold up a mint because I'm not going to look at their tag to see which is which. So spearmint is very good, and horseradish. I don't know if any of you have had horseradish, but it's got that heat to it.
It'll clear your sinuses for
It
sure.
clears that sinus right out. You want to be careful with horseradish, though. It will take over wherever you put it. Even if it's in a container, it's going to find a way to grow elsewhere. Memory and circulation. Now, the memory and circulation is going to be very similar to the internal inflammation, but let's start with that. Ginkgo biloba. I think everyone's heard that ginkgo biloba is good for your memory. Oops. Rosemary. Again, here's the rosemary. Turmeric and saffron. Saffron are the little, my mind's blank, of crocosmia. Right in the center of the flower, the crocosmia. Not every crocosmia is a specific crocosmia. Peppermint and cinnamon. Cinnamon's very good for your health as well as, again, peppermint.
Yeah, cinnamon will reduce blood pressure. So if you guys have high blood pressure or work in that realm, again, seek a professional's help before you start
Absolutely.
introducing these items. However, having that knowledge and knowing that it's accessible to you is really nice.
Internal inflammation. Ginger again. Garlic again. Turmeric. Cardamom. Rosemary. Cinnamon and aloe vera. I have in the past, and it works, it's very effective, used the inner fillet of the aloe, and you can purchase this in your natural section of your grocery store. Make sure it's just the internal fillet, not the entire thing, and it really makes a difference with your internal inflammation. you would mix it with a little cranberry juice because it tastes a little green for me, and it's all you need is a little dash of cranberry juice or juice of your liking, and drink that down. Now you don't want to just keep doing this year after year after year. It's only for at the moment that you have inflammation. You can do it for up to 3 years. It all depends on your system, and again, seek a professional for that. But it works really well. Energy. I love me some parsley. Curly parsley is going to be really high energy. Flat Italian will be a good energy. So my husband, when he'd go skiing, he would make a juice of apple, cucumber, lemon, and parsley. And he made sure it was the curly parsley because he was going to be skiing his life away. And it just gave him so much energy. I always did it up until a year ago before I'd come to work. And it just gets you going for the day. I would use a Flat Italian for coming to work because I didn't need so much energy because I have enough naturally anyway. But it's a great way to start your day or any activity just before you go through an activity. Sage, peppermint, and rosemary, again, repeating on a lot from other things. Erika's going to talk about some teas.
Yeah. First, welcome everyone. I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad I get to talk with you guys today. I hope some of you guys came here specifically to learn about how to make teas, how to dry herbs and stuff like that. Feel free to ask any questions throughout as I'm discussing it. So I went through and I actually grabbed some lemon balm from my garden. It's pretty easy just to grab a whole bunch of like something tall and stemmy like this, like peppermints or lemon balm or anise hyssop, and just kind of wrapping it and letting it dry. Leafy greens like this will take it could range from like 5 days to a week and a half to kind of dry, depending on its environment. You kind of want to have it in a cooler, darker place if you can. Maybe I actually like to keep mine by the window, but it's a window in the back of my home that doesn't get as much sunlight. That way the airflow is going through, and you'll know once they get really crunchy, which they're not yet because I just picked them the other day, but they'll get pretty crunchy and you'll be able to just kind of place them in containers that are airtight. They'll store for about 3 to 5 months, I'd say, on the shelf, and put them in any teas and kind of become your own alchemist, right? You're going to create your own little flavors that you like and that you want to introduce into your routine. We have a few. And they're all. Yeah, sure.
Do they have to be dried to use them? Can you pick them off the plant to make a tea?
You can. Yes, absolutely. It does not have to be dry. Honestly, one of the tips I wanted to introduce to you guys today is a lot of these plants have natural essential oils, right? So when you're brewing your tea, if you want to have just the plant and you're picking it off and you're just throwing it at some warm water, making sure it's not quite at boiling temperature, but really warm enough that it is going to, expel any of the oils that you want to have in that water, but covering it as well, because that's going to trap all the oils in the tea and that's going to give you the most benefits. It does not have to dry like this, but if you do want to dry them, this is one of the ways that you can do it. I use just a wrap of twine that almost has a wire in it, and it's really easy to just kind of hang on a string that I hang over my window.
And you can also use a rubber band, so as it dries, it will, get smaller with the drying bundle. You can also dry herbs with a dehydrator. I'm sure some of you have dehydrators for other purposes, or in your oven at 180 degrees on a cookie sheet for a couple of hours.
Yeah, at the lowest temp that you can set it on, just having it in there and just kind of monitoring it and looking in and checking in on it. Each thing is going to dry at its different time period. If you're drying a root of some sort, it's going to take a longer time than a really thin leaf like this or a flower. Flowers like chamomile, if you're picking and harvesting some chamomile from your yard, I like to put them in little baskets, and honestly I just let the baskets kind of sit again in a environment that's going to be airy but a little bit darker, and it'll probably take about 2 weeks, I'd say, for it to dry completely and fully.
And the best way for drying an herb is like this. As Erika was saying, the oils will then go into the important part of the plant that you're going to be using. Yeah.
I also, I like to collect a lot of seeds as well. Like coriander make great tea, fennel seeds make great tea. I just kind of hang the plant upside down in a paper bag and kind of wrap the rubber band around the paper bag and let it hang as well, and so that all those seeds kind of fall. And then sometimes I let the seeds, I kind of monitor them. You kind of use your own preference, like are these dry enough? Just, you know, use caution. They might not be dry enough, but put them away maybe on a shelf for another like few days or so, and then store them in that airtight container. Make sure there's no water or anything in that container.
You know how you can tell if they're dry enough? Or at least for coriander. Do this with coriander.
What?
After it's been in the bag a while, I put it on a paper plate and get canned air.
Oh, that's right, you were telling me
and
this.
it blows the little husks away that you don't want. Yeah, it's very easy.
It works. You can get innovative and really just play around with it.
And coriander comes from cilantro.
It does, yes.
That's
for those who didn't know. And it's really, actually, coriander is really great if you have a lot of heat in your belly, tend to get, I'd say, loose bowels or stuff like that. It's really, really, really calming and settling to the stomach and the digestive system. I brought some things to show you. I buy these little tea bags online, so if you don't like loose leaf objects such as just like these little balls that you stick in your teapots or teacups, or like a teapot like this, you can buy these little bags online and just create a whole bunch of your own little tea bags to set aside so you can throw them in a cup if you prefer a bag. These are organic material, and they weren't that expensive. I think it was $12 for like 200 of them, you know, so they'll last you a pretty decent amount of time as well. Yeah, does anyone have any questions about teas? I brought some items and some jars that you can see that I can definitely pass them around. You guys can take a look and see what the herbs and seeds look like as they get dried. Some of the things I wanted to share today was that a lot of the medicinal herbs are going to be a little bitter, pungent, and they will have like a stronger flavor. So you might want to make your teas a little bit sweeter. So I suggest things like lemon verbena, even drying your lemon peels at home. Make sure that the skins are organic. We have stevia plants as well, and bee balm's pretty fun. It will make your tea a very pretty pink color.
If you use the flower, that will give your tea that a similar hue to that flower. Make it really pretty.
Yeah, and if you guys, yeah, sure.
Are there any herbs to where you have to be mindful about how much you're putting in to your teapot or whatnot so that you don't accidentally overdo it?
If you're using herbs such as these culinary herbs that we typically carry on the premises, you're not going to have to worry about how much is going into each one.
Right.
If you're using medicinal herbs maybe you find or harvest in the wild, I would be considerate of what you're going to put in,
Perfect.
of how much you're going to. If you have more questions afterwards, I'd love to chat with you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I can give some suggestions. Again, we were talking about the herbs and kind of where they work in the body. We were talking about the digestive herbs. Some ones that we didn't cover were catnip are really great for if you're sick, for fever, stuff like that. It increases the blood flow and gets things to stimulate.
I have it in here somewhere.
And it actually has a really great flavor in tea. Catnip is a really, really fun herb, I think, to play with. As well as sage can be a really great tea if you tend to have sore throats. It's definitely a rough cough or anything like that, and you can make a great gargle with sage. It's really, really soothing and calming. Again, we talked about how the plants kind of represent sometimes the area that they're going to calm and soothe. And if you look at a sage plant, it kind of looks like a tongue, right? It's a little furry, has that line down the middle, and it just kind of represents the area of the body that it's going to work with. Like you, yes, exactly.
The doctrine
like we
of
discussed
signature.
kind of look at those things. Some of them worked, some of them didn't, but it is interesting to see the correlation.
We did talk about drying. The difference between you drying your own as opposed to just going to the grocery store. As Erika was saying, 3 to 5 months is how long you would hold on to something that's dried before it loses its oomph. You don't know how long they've been on the shelf at the grocery store. They could be there for a year. You just don't know. So it's always good to grow and dry your own if you're able to.
And how much fun is it to go out to your own garden and collect, especially if you're going to cook? I know that I have children and I love sending them out to the space in the garden to just harvest. And then we put it in the food that we're eating, and to them it's just like a special thing that we get to do as a family.
And when you grow your own, it makes, you know, in the culinary world, it makes the flavor so much brighter. So much brighter.
And when you think about, if you want to take it to a scientific realm, your environment has its own microbiome. So if you're harvesting from your own area, this is going to be most conducive to what you're supposed to be ingesting.
So we're going to move on to culinary herbs. You first want to decide, are you going to do them in a pot? Herbs are great in a pot. You can see you can decorate with some nice decorative pots. You can just use plastic grower tubs. That's what I use. They're just mixed within my veggie garden. Decide what kind of food you like on what kind of herbs you're going to grow. Do you like Italian, Mexican, Thai, American? So you kind of, that is what helps you decide what kind of herbs you're going to want to grow for the culinary herbs. Let's see, let's talk a little culinary. Let's talk oregano. Who doesn't like oregano?
No hands were raised. Good.
Oregano is for Italian. You can use it in Mexican. You can even use it in American now. During World War II, let's do a history test. World War II. Oregano was introduced to the U.S. because of the soldiers coming back from the war. When was World War II? Blurt it out. When did it start? Oh, I love this.
She likes history.
I love history. It started September 1st, 1939, and it went till September 2nd, 1945. So 6 years and a day. But that's how it was more introduced to the United States, was through the soldiers coming back from the war. And now there's so many different oreganos. This particular one is Greek oregano. What a surprise. This one is hot and spicy. And it's just that, and you can smell the spice in there. And it just kind of gives a little bit of a sinus burn. It's so good. Let's see, what do we have over here? We've got, oh, this is just a really nice golden one. This was grown kind of in the dark. It's not as bright as it should be. If you go after the class out to the herb garden there, it will be so bright you will know it's that. It's bright yellow. But if it's grown too dark, it's going to look more green. This is another one.
I don't want to interrupt, sorry.
Nope, that's fine.
What is the best way to dry oregano? Because I was just trimming some of my oregano the other day, and I hated to throw it away, but
If you're able to,
Same
hang it.
thing?
Yeah,
Hanging
again,
still?
those oils aren't just for medicinal, they're also for flavor.
Okay.
Yeah. Right here.
Yeah.
In Greece, they have the Greek oregano. When they sell it in sort of plastic bags with flowers still on them. And then you shake the bag, and basically you get both the leaves and the flowers. It's really strong.
Oh, absolutely.
But they always cut them while they're flowering, or in conjunction with the flowering.
You mean here?
No, over there.
Okay.
So I'm wondering here, when do you suggest cutting?
A lot of times I do it before they flower because I want the plant to continue growing. If you let it flower, then it's slowed down on the foliage and it's just concentrating on looking pretty. I want it for the culinary foliage. So I want it to keep producing. I'm really hard on my herbs because I use them so much. It's like, I know I need to let you grow a little more, but I'm cooking today. So don't let them flower. I have specific ones that I don't use for culinary that I leave for the bees.
Yeah, 'cause they're incredible pollinators.
Oh, they're extremely incredible pollinators. So, like I say, I have mine and then the bees have theirs. So the ones that I have for culinary, I don't let them flower because I want them to continue producing. Yeah. This is a very nice variegated oregano, one of the more mild ones. But it's also fun if you're gonna do a container. It adds a great texture too to your container. Why not have it look pretty and eat it too?
And for those who are new to herbs, some of these have like a slight subtle difference of like what they are. So trying them and
absolutely.
experimenting with them,
I
they
mean-
are going to taste a little different.
And you can tell by smelling them. This one is very mild, but you get the hot and spicy. And you sniff that, it's like your eyes open up and your sinuses open up, and it's like, oh, that one is gonna
Do you
give
want
me
to
some
pass those around,
flavor.
Holly?
Yeah, huh?
Do you want to pass them around?
Yeah.
You guys want to smell them? Yeah? No? Right? Who doesn't want to smell plants?
So I'm gonna send around 3 totally different smelling. I'll start it for another.
Okay.
3 totally different smelling oreganos.
Hot and spicy.
Just pass them around. Another commonly used herb would be the thyme. This one is oregano thyme.
Oh, that's funny.
Oh, and you can tell. You can smell some oregano in that, but you can also get the hints of the thyme.
I love hearing thyme with citrus.
This is a lime
Really
thyme.
great.
Very mild. Lime thyme is a very mild thyme. I'm not going to send everything around.
Yeah.
That's lemon.
Trying to hold
This is silver posy. It's a very fine, variegated one, and another mild thyme. Bay's commonly used. Yes.
Will oregano and thyme die back after they flower, or are they reseeding, or are they going to come back next year?
This is the one I grow. It's called foxleaf. I have grown so many times in my lifetime. This is the one I've stuck with. This is my husband and I are very into cooking all kinds of cultural foods. This one is the best for all of our cooking needs. Again, this is a variegated called foxley thyme. Now, if we have a harsh winter, and I grow them in big tubs, if we have a harsh winter, it's gonna look like it got a really bad hit from the winter and you have all these dead brown. Just cut it in the spring, clean it up, cut all that back, and it's just gonna flush right back out. And you really wanna make sure you cut that dead away before it starts to grow and flush out. Otherwise, you go to clip some and you get all that dead in there too. You don't want that.
Yes.
My thyme has gotten rather large and woody. Can I cut it back into old wood, or am I going to kill it if I get too
You
aggressive?
can, it's not gonna look pretty.
Yeah.
It's always best to, like I say, I use mine all the time, so it's always getting pruned. So if you feel like you haven't used it for a long time, go out and do a little shearing, you know. Give some to your neighbors, give some to your family
It's
members.
flowered now, and it's just mostly a
Yeah,
ball
shear
of
it
dead
back.
flowers.
Yeah, shear it back
Okay.
and let it flesh out. This is the time that you're going to want to start fertilizing. So you can use a variety of fertilizers. We have Sure Start if you're going to start planting. We've got Rose Fertilizer, has the right numbers for herbs, as well as an all-purpose. Just make sure that you're using an organic. You want to feed your plants. You don't want to force them with a synthetic. You want to feed that soil that in turn will feed your plant and continuously allow them to bring up nutrients. Now, azomite or trace minerals, and I plant this with every single plant. It doesn't matter if it's an edible. It's a trace mineral that's going to help your plant store nutrients so that as it's performing for you and giving you the foliage needed or the flowers needed, you're then feeding it something that's going to help it store those nutrients so that it can constantly draw from that as it's using its energy. It also, with edibles, enhances the flavor extremely. I started using it about 12, 13 years ago, and I won't plant an edible without it. I won't plant a plant without it because it really makes a difference.
How often do you add that as a
Once a season.
Once a season.
Oyster shell is another thing you want to add. This is your calcium. That's going to create good, strong plant cells that will be using those nutrients that the azomite's allowing to draw up into the plant. I just had to pass that on. If you're going to do pots. Isn't this best? Or alternate would be another. If you're doing raised bed, raised bed. If you're doing the ground, amend it. Always put some compost or soil booster on your existing ground soil and mix it in so you're adding, again, more nutrients for that season. All right, let's talk more herbs. Bay is used quite often. We use it in our stews. We use it in our soups. What did I just use it in? We use it in our Indian food. It is a not as hardy shrub for here. I have had it grow for many years in a container. It's just those bad winters that can do it in. I lost mine this past winter, so put it in a protected area. If you live closer to Seattle or the water, it's a lot hardier in those areas. Those are more towards a zone 8. This is the cayenne. Remember, the queen of herbs. Very good pepper. Hot and spicy. Keeps you going. Salad burnet. This can go in salads, sandwiches. If you taste it, it's kind of nutty. Got a nutty, fruity flavor to it. Very bright. It just opens up in your mouth. Pass it around.
Do you want me to pass it?
Yeah, go ahead and take a nibble.
I have
Very bright.
Up, there we go.
And it has a little flower, with the little red.
It has like a tall stalk with a button flower.
You can take a
Yeah. This is tarragon. Yes.
Question about the cayenne is, since you're using it for herbal applications, do you just use the pepper or can you use the plant leaf?
That's up to you. Both work.
Okay.
Now, if you use everything,
Yeah.
the seeds, the membrane, it's going to be really hot,
Right.
which is what I like. So that's entirely up to you on if you want to use the whole or just the outer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tarragon. This is another one I love, a very hardy perennial. I use it in seafoods. It's very good in seafoods. Very hard to get. I get it a couple times a year and that's it. Very yummy. Do you ever use tarragon?
I don't actually.
You don't? Okay, we talk gingo, we talk those.
Apparently I need to get some.
Makes the best potato salad.
Potato salad.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
A little something for the kitties. This is lemon catnip. This will give them a little fun time for about 10 minutes.
My cat will find that just as it's starting to sprout every spring, and it's just, he's rolling in dirt because it's just right there. He loves it.
And this is another type of cat nip, Alto nepida. There's different varieties. Now there's cat mint too, and that affects them differently. But they still want to snuggle it. They like their mint and nip. Rosemaries, we talked about it in a medicinal way. Let's talk about it in a culinary way. I use rosemary in soups. I fry up some, I have many recipes where I have parsley, rosemary, and thyme chopped finely. I sear chicken breast on both sides with that and put marinara on it on top of a bed of asparagus with a little parm. It's fabulous combination. I also do that same herb mix in chicken soups. I like to play around with it. This one is rosemary art. This one is a great name, barbecue. Some people use the tougher ones like the barbecue, the tougher stock, the older stock, use them as skewers. Now that you can see those.
Rosemary plant last?
What was that?
In your garden, how long does a rosemary plant last?
It depends on the cultivar, and it also depends on the winter. They don't like wet, and they don't like wet and cold together. So some plants are going to be a lot tougher than other plants. The art and the barbecue are going to be a lot tougher than the trailing Irene.
So do you recommend putting them in containers and bringing them in, or putting them under shelter?
If they're in any kind of container, you want to protect them more than if they're in the ground, because their roots are exposed to the elements being in that container, where the ground will keep them a lot warmer. Just make sure they're in a good, well-drained area. All herbs like to be somewhat on the dry side, so just make sure that they're in a well-drained area, because again, they don't want the wet or the cold in the wintertime. Like I said, this was Trailing Irene rosemary. This you could put either as a ground cover, over a rockery, or in a hanging basket. This is one of the not as hardy ones. It will stay around if we have a mild winter. Rosemary's like any other multi-herbs. Each one has its distinct flavor, so play around with the different ones. Horseradish, we talked about it medicinally. It's great as a horseradish sauce with your prime rib. Why not clear your sinuses while you're eating? Again, this is very invasive. Even in a container, if a little piece of it gets onto the soil somewhere, it's going to grow there. We've been growing it for about 25 plus years. I try to maintain a small patch in my berry area, but in all these years, we mow it now. In the back 40, it's down the hillside. Nature helps, yes.
They find a way.
So what part of the horseradish plant do you
The
use?
roots.
The root.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah, the roots. It's so fun to play with. If you love horseradish, play around with different sauces. It's just so fun. With any of the herbs, it's so fun to just play around and find your own likes and dislikes. Mint. This is Spanish mint. And again, so many different smells in mint. This one is lavender mint. See if you can get the hint of lavender in that, with that background of mint. This one is Swiss Ricola.
Oh, this definitely smells
Yeah.
like the cough drops
Yep.
if you get Ricola.
That's what.
And they taste like it too.
Yep.
I'll pass this around because it's pretty impressive.
And this is an apple mint. This is a mild one, but you still
Right,
get
right.
that apple and that mint scent. And again, each one's got their own flavor. You can use them in iced tea, lemonade, different ethnic meals. I've had it in, I can't remember. They're from Laos. Oh, beautiful, beautiful food. With a lot of mint. Honey melon. This is a honey melon sage. Here we go again, all those different smells and flavors.
It's a pineapple sage.
Did you say melon?
Honey melon. Kind of like a honeydew.
Yeah.
Another very mild. You didn't know you were going to be sniffing all day, did you?
It is very mild.
This one's a pineapple sage.
That one is fragrant.
Now you can use these fruitier ones in salads. You can use them in teas.
Yes, I've actually suggested this pineapple mint in a tea. I think it would be really fun. I have not tried it yet, but
Now this
I
one's
plan on
a-
it this summer.
This is a very citrusy, strong tangerine sage. You can sniff it too.
I am.
No, I did.
They do.
Yeah.
The new growth is not woody, but the older growth will become woody. Now this one is a much stronger. Big difference. This is a Burgarden, one of the most populars for culinary.
We use a lot of just the regular traditional sage with a lot of like more red meat.
Savories. Savories are used in soups, stews, egg dishes, all kinds of savory meals. This one is winter. Winter savory is a little bit bitter. A lot of people like the bitter. If you're not so thrilled about the bitter, then there's the summer savory, which is a little bit more sweeter, kind of nutmeggy. Again, for, soups and stews and egg dishes. or whatever else you experiment with and find it's good with. Parsley. We talked about parsley for medicinal. I like parsley for culinary as well. This is the Italian flat leaf. This is the curly. You can see why they're both called that. This is the higher energy. This is good energy.
Now, are they a plant that likes it dry too?
All herbs like dry. Some can take more dry than others, but they all like dry.
Because it seems like every herb I planted in my vegetable raised beds is doing poorly. Maybe because we're overwatering.
You could be overwatering. If it's showing signs of something happening, take a picture and email them to us, and then we can let you know with some questions possibly, or just right away off the picture, let you know if it's a watering issue or something else. It could be a nutritional issue. We just won't know until we see it.
I have a question about parsley.
Yeah.
So parsley is a biennial. Can you keep it in your garden continuously, or does it need to be replanted?
It's going to eventually need to be replanted. So your first season, you're going to harvest it. The second season is when it's going to give you the flowers, which will give you the seed. And then the seed you use for your next crop. Yeah.
I just didn't know. I thought that was easy.
Yeah. It's a good question, though. Lavenders, we talked about it medicinally. It is also good in a lot of baked goods, especially with lemon. I love both. I can't have this, but I love both. When you get older, allergies take effect. So they also could be used in like leg of lamb, pork roast, basil. Basil's a really good. This one is red ruby. This one's going to be a mild one. This one is the old-fashioned Genovese. This is the Italian sweet, very mild, sweet
Makes a
basil.
great pesto. If you like pesto.
Oh yes. And I would make pesto and put it in ice trays and put it in the freezer, and then I'd zippy bag them up in a freezer bag, and that way you just pull them out as you need them, and it just takes like 10 minutes to thaw.
It's a great way to freeze herbs is through an oil form.
This is Thai basil, very strong. If you think about it, if you're into Thai food and you want all that heat and all those extra flavors that they use in Thai cooking, you've got to have a stronger basil so you can get some flavors out of it. Thai basil is very delicious. And I think we covered, we got chives. We didn't talk about chives. Chives come in all forms. These are a common chive. You can get garlic chive, which of course would have a little hint of garlic flavor to them. Don't let them flower if you want to keep getting your chives. I have a lot of chives. My husband and I use a lot of chives. And the minute we see a flower come up, it's like, nope, pinch it off, because I want more chives. And the flower stem's going to be really woody, so you don't want all that woody stuff in there when you're trying to get some nice tender chives. Yes?
For the last couple of years, I've been trying to do chives from seeds, and they just haven't been germinating at all. And I don't know if that's a common problem with chives starting from seed, or.
Do you give them a drying time, and then before you plant them, soak them first in water?
I was not soaking them. No, I was going straight into like
if
some
they're
seed
nice and
soil.
dry, which they need to be, then when it's time to plant them, let them soak. You can let it soak overnight.
Okay.
And then plant them.
Perfect. Thank you.
Any more questions?
Question about basil. They don't seem as plentiful right now because I think partially our weather's been so wonky. But I've never tried to grow basil from seed. Is it?
Same concept. They're going to go to flower. And then that
Okay.
flower is going to be at a certain point where it's going to want to come off the plant. It'll be dry enough to where it's going to want to come off the plant. And that's where we go into what we discussed with the paper bag. Turn it upside down in that paper bag and let it go to seed in there.
I usually pinch the flowers off so that I can
Use
make
the
a lot of
basil.
pesto.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And that follows in what I was saying earlier about I like to leave some for the bees so they
Right.
flower. Then you can use
Yes.
those as the seed
Sure.
that you collect, and then the ones you want to cut back so they continue growing the foliage.
Okay.
Yeah.
But if I just wanted to plant the basil from seed right now and just like purchase the seed, is this a good time to plant it from seed?
There's still time. It grows fast.
Okay.
Yeah. This is what June. Towards the end of June, you got
Yeah, I didn't know
July,
if I was
August,
too late.
September.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alright.
And we're supposed to go into a late summer this year, so that might be at your advantage as well.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm guessing most of these like a lot of sun, is that right?
They do. Yes.
So I can plant east or west, is west,
West is the hot. South and west. And again, they do very well in containers. They do very well in the ground or raised beds. They're not the best thing to do in the house. You have to put a little fan up so they have airflow. Sometimes recreating their natural needs in the outdoor is hard to do inside, so they end up being very buggy. It's best to grow them outside. Yes.
So going back to the teas,
Sure.
so when you grow chamomile, typically you use the flower in the teas, but can you also use the leaves?
You know, I haven't before, and I don't think it's commonly used. It's mostly just flour.
Just the flowers.
It's like
That's
when
where
you-
you're gonna find the potency.
Yeah, and it's like when you just eat them. Back in the old days, you just go along on your way home from school and eat the buttons.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
A question back to the lavender, it's actually a growing question. In the pea patch where I garden, there's some lavender plants that were planted maybe 15 years ago, and they don't cut the lavender. They've got extremely woody, almost broken stems, about 4 plants.
Yeah. At that stage, it's best to yank them and start over, and they need to be sheared back every time they bloom. Now, this doesn't work for Spanish lavender, but for the others it does. You can see where it's blooming. You've got these stems, and you can see where the main plant is. When this is done blooming, shear it down to where the main plant is. And quite often, if you keep up on that, it's not only going to keep it a nice compact mound and not woody, but you can get 5 bloom times out of it doing that before the winter hits. I've used them in Christmas wreaths because my last one would be November for the bloom time. So, there's an advantage of taking care of your plants. Any more questions? Yes.
What are the pink flowers?
What are the pink flowers? These are Monarda. They're also known as bee balm. They smell really good. The bees really like it.
Hummingbirds too.
We like to use them as... Yeah, hummingbirds love too. You want to smell it? Isn't that nice? Yeah.
We were talking about that. If you put them in some teas, it will turn the water a certain color.
yeah.
She might really enjoy that.
So
Having
some of
some
them,
pink tea.
yeah, some of them are kind of corally. A lot of different types of pink, and it'll be a light hue of the color of the flower. Now you can do the foliage as well as the flower. I just think the flower's fun because of the color.
Yeah.
Any more questions? Well, looks like that's it. We do have herbs for sale, on sale at 20% off today through the end of the week. I believe it's the 30th. Thank you for joining us.